Hello everybody, my name is Sylvia Walukiewicz. For several years I have been working as a life and personality coach, as a psychologist and as a sensitive and mediumistic consultant. I also give workshops and seminars on various topics of spiritual development. A crucial topic with which many people come to me is fears. Some fears have been incriminating them since their childhood, others just after incisive events in their lives. Independently of the moment since the fears are present, they usually have a crucial impact on the well-being of the people concerned, and for some of them they even might have become an inherent part of their lives. In other words, many people have accepted that their fears are there and have lost hope that it could be any different. Why is that? What is the reason that so many people have fears and live day to day with them? And especially, why do so many people lose hope that they could free themselves from their fears? In which way can one free oneself from one's fears and thus go through life freer and more relaxed? First of all, I will explain in which way our fears influence us in our everyday life, because very few people are aware of the impact their fears have on their way of thinking, on their emotions, and on their actions. Afterwards, I will go into some basic principles about how fears can originate, and, what's even more important, explain it from an energetic perspective. Many of us are not aware of how strongly we are influenced by our fears in our everyday lives, and how incriminating they can be. On the one hand, we can be aware of our fears, such as the fear to lose our job, the fear of huge crowds of people, or the fear of being cheated by our partner. In these cases, we usually do consciously everything in order to avoid the dreaded situation. For example, we work extremely hard and do a lot of overtime in order to not lose the job. Or, in the second example, we avoid parties or other places where we could encounter a crowd of people. In the third example, we could control our partner and start to cling on them because we think that this gives us more security that they will stay. The other possibility is when we are not aware of our fears, but even then we are influenced by them. If, for example, we witness the divorce of our parents as a child, or even if a parent died prematurely, then this traumatic event is stored in our energetic system until we process it. If this pain is in us, but we are not aware that we should transform it, or if we even suppress it, then we could live with the following fears. The fear of being abandoned, the fear of losing someone close, and or the fear of losing control or of feeling powerless. This can lead to the following behaviors. Give yourself less worth in the relationship, or to extremely adapt in order to not lose your partner. Alternatively, we could not really let our partner get emotionally close because of the huge fear of being hurt. In other words, the fears usually lead either to an extreme dependence or independence. But in these moments, we are not really ourselves and are unable to give heartfelt love. Regardless of how we behave to avoid a dreaded situation, fear is and remains a constant companion in our energetic system until we consciously transform it. Because in reality, we are not afraid of the situation, but of the emotion that we expect to have then. According to the law of resonance, the outside world is a mirror of our inner world. Because anxiety contains a great deal of energy, we will constantly attract situations which mirror these fears, whether we consciously want it or not. The scary thing about it is that the more we suppress our fears, the more we draw correspondent situations into our lives. What is important to keep in mind is that our fear never relates to the current moment. It is always focused on something we expect to happen in the future. Thus, it can be reassuring to realize this and to calm the tense state of the body through relaxation exercises. The implication of all this is that, due to a past experience that has not yet been processed emotionally and possibly neither mentally, we always assume that it could happen again in the future. And precisely because there is so much energy stored, we draw similar situations into our lives over and over again, confirming our assumption that our fear reflects the reality. This leads to a vicious circle, which in turn can cause us to lose hope for healing. However, there are many ways in which fears can be completely transformed out of the energetic system, and thus out of our lives. Confronting them, finding out what emotions we are really afraid of, and its profound transformation and healing. In the following, I'll explain in what way fears are stored in our energetic system and how they have been built. I also show how they affect us and how they can be transformed step by step. I wish you a lot of courage when you confront and transform your fears. Enjoy getting more and more free.
Hello everyone! This short video is about how you can free yourself from your fears. First of all, I would like to explain some basic principles about fears, which lead to the explanation how fears originate. So, as mentioned before, our fears are always a projection into a future, into an assumed future. So, if we are afraid of something, the thing we are afraid of is not in the present moment, it is actually in the future. So, for example, the fear of being abandoned. When we are afraid of being abandoned, we expect that when this event happens to ourselves, that we will feel, for example, sad or angry or emotionally devastated. So it's not the present moment, it's not that we are abandoned now by our partner, but that we expect that when we are or when we will be abandoned in the future, we expect to feel these emotions. So the second principle is that we are not afraid of the situation itself, but we are afraid of the expected emotions. So in the example I made right now, we are afraid of experiencing this emotional pain, of being sad, feeling emotional pain, or feeling emotionally devastated. So it's always about a projection into the future and about a projection of the assumed emotions we expect to experience in the future. So how do we know how it feels to be abandoned? How do we know how it feels to be cheated on, to be shouted on, to be rejected. So this leads to our second question: how do fears originate? So if we know that how it feels to experience these situations, somewhere in the past we must have experienced them. And it doesn't matter if we have experienced them in our childhood, in our youth, or in our past life. Because, as mentioned in some of my other videos, the past life, so the emotions we haven't processed from our past lives, are still in our energetic system. So if in a past life we have been abandoned, we are, or we can be afraid in this life to be abandoned again. Or it also can be that our ancestors have experienced some really painful emotional moments in their past and they haven't processed them, so usually they have developed fears which have been inherited into our energetic system. So in other words, we have experienced, or our ancestors have experienced, a painful emotional moment and we haven't processed these emotions, so they are still stored in us, and therefore our energetic system is afraid of experiencing them again because we know how painful it feels. So second thing is, how do they influence us? So fear in the energetic system has really a huge energetic load. So there's really a lot of energy in these suppressed emotions, in the fear, in the situation we are afraid of. There's really a huge load. So usually there is more energetic load on a situation we are afraid of than on a situation we like. Because a situation we like or we would love to experience, it feels like much softer, much easier. Of course, we are projecting and attracting them, but if there's more load on the situation we are afraid of, we will attract the situations more intensely into our lives. So, unconsciously or consciously, our fears are really influencing a lot of our thinking process, of our emotional well-being, and of our mental state, and of course of our behavior. So, for example, when we are in a relationship and we are afraid of being abandoned because, for example, as a child we have been abandoned, or our parents have divorced, or we have lost a parent because he or she died. So we have this fear inside us. And then we project it, of course, into our relationship. So, for example, we do everything in order to make our partner stay with us. So maybe we change ourselves in a way that we are not really ourselves, just in order to please our partner, so that he or she stays with us. Or, for example, we start to control the partner, we start to check the emails and messages just in order to prove that he will not abandon us. Or the other way around. We don't want to experience this emotional pain so deeply, so we close ourselves up and don't let our partner emotionally closer to us. So it's the other extreme. But in both ways, we are not really living our true selves. Or the same thing can be applied onto our job situation. If we are afraid of being rejected or not appreciated, we usually start to work excessively, to work more than others, for example, and really to give everything and to do extra hours or whatever, just in order to receive that appreciation and not being rejected. Or the other way around, we start from the beginning to resignate and to just do the job like the minimum of the minimum, in order that we can say, okay, so I really didn't do my best, so I'm rejected, that's normal, but we know that we didn't perform well anyway. So maybe in the past we have experienced an exam situation that we have learned a lot and then we didn't pass. So we are afraid of experiencing that again. So we start to resignate right away from the first moment. So we will not experience this situation again. And if you observe yourself and you are really true to yourself, you might are able to observe several of these behavioral patterns and thinking patterns. So now, how can we transform these fears? So first of all, as mentioned before, we have an emotional pain stored inside us. So we are not really afraid of the situation itself, but we are afraid of experiencing that emotional pain again. In that moment, I really can recommend you to confront you with your fears. So with the situation you are afraid of. It means that, so ask really yourself, what am I afraid of? Then you say, of being rejected or of being abandoned. But then, okay, so what happens if you are abandoned? And what happens if you are rejected? And then you go deeper. And then maybe, then I feel sad, then I become angry, or then I feel not appreciated. Okay, so how does it feel to not be appreciated? How does it feel to be sad? And then maybe you let out the sadness, you cry it out, you just accept the feeling you have stored in yourself of being not appreciated, and maybe you give yourself the appreciation. And then maybe you go deeper. And then you ask yourself, okay, so how does it feel to not be appreciated? Maybe it's very painful. So then accept the pain. Really go as deep as until you find really the origin, the first emotion, where the building up of the fear has started. And if you have found that, then you're really on the ground, and then you can start to really solve the fear, because you've solved, or you will have solved, the emotions which caused the fear. Really go deeper and deeper and ask yourself what you're really afraid of. And if you know the situation in your past, maybe in your childhood where you have been abandoned by your parents, then you can go into that situation and experience it mentally again in order to release the emotions and to free yourself from them. So how it works, you can see in my last video. Then, as mentioned before, release the emotions. Give them some space. Just let them flow. Observe them, feel them, and give them the attention they would have needed before, so in your past. And just let them flow. Nothing happens. It's just an emotion. It's just an experience you have made before, you're experiencing now again, in order to experience it in a conscious way, so you can process it and let it go. And of course, then you can let go of your fears, because you don't need to be afraid of them anymore. You have transformed the pain. And then, when you will think about the situation of the possibility of being abandoned, you will say like, yeah, it's possible, but you will have no emotional reaction. This is the really cool thing. And I have did these exercises time and again, and it really works. People even forget after maybe 1 or 2 months what they have been afraid of before. And I have experienced the same thing. So that method is really proven, and it's really good, because you really work deeply and you transform the things in your energetic system. After that, give yourself what you need. Usually, if you experience an emotional pain, you experience that because you had a lack of love, lack of appreciation, lack of receiving the attention you needed. So usually you felt the pain because you were missing something. So in that moment, you can turn the things around and then give yourself what you have needed. So if you experience that you are not really appreciated. Go into the emotion of appreciation and appreciate yourself. If you have the impression of not being loved, maybe you can give yourself some self-love and to say to yourself that you love yourself more and more every day, and really to feel the emotion of love. And maybe you can hug yourself just to show yourself that you are there for you. So then you really will energetically change and transform the old fears into new emotions and into a new energetic state. And if you do that with every fear which arises into your consciousness, you will become more and more free from your fears. And really, believe me, it's really an amazing state. It's really amazing if you're really relaxed and you know when something happens, you can manage it. You don't need to be afraid of, because you know how to deal with it, first of all, and you will have less old emotional pain stored within your energetic system. So your energetic system will be lighter, will be clearer, and will be more positive. And yeah, I really can recommend you these steps in order to free yourself from your fears. And if you have any questions, please write me an email or send me a WhatsApp message or whatever. And I'm really happy to support you in your process of becoming more your true self and living your own life as you wish from the depths of your heart. I thank you for watching this video and see you soon.